Okay, but did you stop and say, hey, it's me?
No, it's so funny because I hadn't seen them in years. Like, they didn't recognize me. They were like, "You are glowing. What's your secret?" And I said, "Honey, I'm healing." Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Honey, I'm Healing. I'm one of your co-hosts, Renee.
Hey everyone, and this is your other co-host, Irina.
And today, Dash wanted to say hello as well with that little shake. Today we're going to be talking about something that has been showing up on both of our For You pages a lot. And that is this interior design trend, or just, I guess it's a lifestyle trend, right?
Yeah.
Of underconsumption. So this topic kind of made me think about, do you remember in like 2020, actually it was probably before 2020, right? With Marie Kondo and minimalism and like that being a huge thing. So this kind of made me think back to that. And then, I don't know, have you seen the trend of maximalism on TikTok too?
Yes, and I love it. I'm such a minimalist, but I so want to be a maximalist too.
Right? A TJ maximalist.
I'm good axilist.
So that's kind of what we'll be talking about today, and just the intentionality behind consuming and kind of what some of those underlying behaviors and thoughts are.
Yeah.
What do you love about maximalism? Or like, why do you say that you love maximalism?
Because I think of Hogwarts.
Yes.
I think of moody, and this is strictly for like interior design. I think of just pieces that express you and then putting them all together and just being like immersed in mood and all the feels. And I think that works very well with big pops of color or like a very dark, moody Hogwarts style classroom.
I totally agree. When I think of maximalism, I think of a little tiny hole in the wall bookstore in London, and I think I could even say like Diagon Alley in Harry Potter, or I think of a little tiny antique store that's like you have to be careful not to bump into something because you're gonna break it.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally to your point, is there's just lots of color, texture. I even love maximalism, I think, creatively, because I love when people almost over accessorize, when they wear like big statement necklaces and like chunky bangles, and like I freaking love that. Just really massive glasses. And I will say, I think that it takes a special kind of person to pull that look off though. So
Yeah, it's not me, but I love it.
I would love to see maximalist Irina.
It would happen if I owned a bookshop. That's where it would happen.
Okay, we'll put it on our dream board of a Honey I'm Healing bookstore.
Or like if we ever had our own space for our retreats, it would happen there in like the lobby. I will say though, while we are talking about maximalism, because I know we're going to touch on this, that I do not think it is the same thing as overconsumption. I think that maximalism is like a way of being, something that you're rooted in, something that is an expression of you. Whereas overconsumption, the motive behind it is not the same. Having too many pictures on your wall is not the same thing as having like 7 different mascaras that you rotate through, in my opinion.
I disagree.
What?
Yeah, I do. I think it boils down to functionality, and I think it boils down to like either way you're buying something that I guess like you don't technically really need. And I think that kind of opens up this whole other bucket of worms here of like, how do we define functionality? Or like, what is an unnecessary purchase?
Well, that's so subjective. You know, when it comes to interior decor, someone might feel so cozy and at home in a place that's very modern, clean, white, minimal picture frames, whereas someone might feel more cozy having a bunch of, you know, vintage, a gallery wall of vintage photos on a wall. But when you have this obsession with wanting to constantly try new mascaras, and you now have racked up like 7 to 10 mascaras in your makeup bag, and this is coming from me watching a video today of overconsumption versus underconsumption and people having so many different types of one makeup product, to me, I'm like, no, you just want more of that. Whereas it's not, is that really bringing you a sense of well-being and comfort, or is that filling something that's like an I want versus a state of being?
I could say this. I could see that though, that argument for maximalism, because I saw a video. It was a point of view video where he was like, "Come watch a storm with me in my maximalist cabin," and he had this entire ceiling of just like stained glass chandeliers. And at that point, how many lights do you really need in your house? You know, and that's kind of, I think I think maximalism can teeter onto the lens or onto that point of overconsumption, because at some point, I think everything stands on a spectrum. And I think that that's kind of where, or why I introduced the ideas of maximalism and minimalism in this, because I think that our version of consumption sits in the middle because it's subjective. So maximalism is all about excess and having, it's like the largest range of materials and colors, and you know, with what I've looked at or what I've seen online, you know, it was just having just a ton of stuff, versus minimalism, which is all about having like nothing at all. And I don't think that when we're talking about overconsumption or underconsumption, that it is really either one of those, but it's just sits on a spectrum, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So how do we define or rate what is not good for us?
I don't think that that's something that you and I can answer for everybody, but I think that this entire conversation opened up that curiosity in me, or just kind of driving home the need to make sure that we're asking ourselves that question of what is too much for me. Because as somebody that, you know, is a binge eater, as someone who, like, you know, overconsumes in that way, it's, you know, I have to ask myself that. And I think that opens up the whole conversation about addressing triggers and identifying them and all of those things. But, you know, I think that when you and I think of overconsumption particularly, I think we're thinking of, you know, influencer marketing and, you know, buying a fanny pack for your Stanley with a snack tray on top of it and adding 15 pounds to something that's already heavy. You know,
so irritating.
So
it irritates me.
Yeah, but I think that whole thing just kind of opens up this conversation about like what is too much.
Yeah, all over our feed right now. We've agreed on this the other day. We're seeing so many videos of people being like, here's my underconsumption. You know, I only have these 2 pairs of shoes I wear. I only have this one purse I own. And I can relate to that so much. And then, you know, I also did a lot more digging last night, watching videos of some of my favorite authentic influencers. And the thing I find is that my favorite influencers who have created their own brands and businesses, they have a business where they feed the overconsumption system, but they couldn't have gotten there without all of these creative big ideas that play a big role in that. But I love it. I love, you know, their lifestyle that they promote. And, you know, when I look at her lifestyle, when I look at her photos, you do kind of see this overconsumption, but is overconsuming really wrong if it's bringing you life, it's bringing joy? So yeah, there's tension on it for me with like both sides.
This is where I want to talk about shame, I think, because when I was thinking about this and just kind of, what we wanted to say or what I wanted to say, I couldn't help but kind of feel some residual shame about this, because I don't want people to think that we're shaming somebody for finding joy and having, so many companies send them PR packages. And, I think it boils down to what each person, again, defines functionality as for themselves, for their family. But as far as what brings you joy, it's something, again, that only you can really define for yourself. And I think that it's important that you find that. I think it's important that you find that sense of self and style, and that comes through trial and error. And I was thinking about that earlier because, we were talking about maximalism just now. I think about how many versions of myself stylistically I have lived, how many different style lives I've lived over the years. But I had to kind of go through that to find my sense of style and my identity, or, the way I want to portray my identity outwardly. In order to really fully embrace that for ourselves, we have to extend that to other people, extend that same grace and understanding and empathy. Extreme Couponers comes to mind. Have you seen that show?
A long time ago, yeah.
But people that like have an entire storage unit
Stock
full
piles,
of laundry detergent and toothpaste and all of that. If that makes you happy, I guess, I don't know.
Go
maybe
you.
That's,
yeah.
I
don't think we're finding tension with people doing things or people having too much, even though it wouldn't work for us. Like, it works for them. I don't care. Like, I don't think of that person any differently. I think where I'm having tension is mainly with influencers who are promoting, earn income from products that they genuinely do not believe in, or from a lifestyle that is living as a highlight reel and not genuine. That's what I don't agree with.
I think that that's actually really harmful.
Yeah. I was going to say the influencing world has really changed a lot from when I was like 20 to now. I remember back in the day, like the were they called FabFitFun boxes? Those were really big, and it was like,
yes.
I remember like really wanting one and to share what I got, but it was so different. I felt like it was so different. You're just genuinely expressing what you got. You're not claiming that this changed your life and now you need to sell it to everyone.
Do you remember the first influencer that you really started following? Like, genuinely like loving their style and their content?
I remember Liz Marie Galvin, I believe it's Liz Marie blog. Loved her interior.
Okay.
Her interior style has stayed. She lives in Michigan, I believe. And her interior style has really kind of, it's evolved, but it's at the root been the same. It's been so cool to watch her over the past 10 years, like just evolve in her style, but she's so real. Like, I think she's such a great influencer. I love Amber Filler-Up Clark. She's someone I've been following for like a decade too. She has that hair company called Day.
Oh, I didn't know that was her company.
Yeah. And I love her, everything about her. I love her like as a mom, a wife. Like,
I remember the very first, I want to say this was like around 2010. And I remember finding her on YouTube, and her handle then was Amarix, but her name was Allison Anderson. And I want to say she lived in California, and then she ended up moving to the Pacific Northwest. But she was one of the first influencers that I had access to, and it being such a new thing, I was so excited to have somebody to show me how to put on eyeshadow like that, or what products, or explain the difference between like pigmented eyeshadow and, you know, one that's not super pigmented. And I feel like I learned something out of it. And I think that that's why it worked. But
Well, it's because it was providing value, but they didn't need to like promote the product. Their own makeup tutorials were doing that on their own. Whereas now you have influencers selling things that they claim they've been using for months. And, you know, they haven't, because last month they were claiming that about another product. So it's gone wild. I do think we have like what we really have tension with is this promotion of lifestyle or just products from people who we know others look up to, but it's not genuine. And
right.
whereas like a minimalist style or expression versus maximalism that can be so genuine, which is where I'm like, okay, you know, where does underconsumption and overconsumption draw the line of being wrong, quotation mark?
You know, that whole question begs again the idea of functionality for me, because my definition of functionality is probably going to be a lot different than yours, and it's probably going to be a lot different from the person that's listening to this. But at the end of the day, I think that it is a question that we have to ask ourselves is, you know, is everything in my home actually functional for me, or do I have things that I can get rid of? It's funny because we talk about association or consumption. I associate Bloom with having one of those automatic milk frothers, because every time I see Bloom, I see that tool being used to mix it up instead of using a blender bottle or a spoon or whatever.
Oh, I have one. No, they're great. They're so easy. You just like rinse it under the water really quick. I just don't use it for greens.
See, this is a great example of functionality.
Yeah.
That's a
I
great
love that
example,
thing.
because for me, that's another gadget that's going to get jammed in my junk drawer in my kitchen, because I already have way too many things in there, and that's a whole other issue. But I think that's a great example of functionality.
I just can't imagine having to wash a whole blender.
Oh no,
To mix
I cannot
something.
be bothered to do. No. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk about overconsumption was because this is something that I think that I've really had to confront personally for myself. And that is just being surrounded by things that I don't need in my home. And I'm not a person that likes clutter. I have really come to realize that about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you and I have had conversations about hygge, and that's kind of led you to research about it more, which I'm obsessed with because I love hygge. But well, what do you love about it? Because I mean, it's such a deep topic, but what do you love about it?
Well, I love that when I sent you photos of my house when I was redecorating and I wanted your opinion, you told me you have a very hygge lifestyle or like design. And as someone who has recently come back to trying to find the pieces that I love that express me, and I feel like you're so right when you said you've got a hygge style, because when I looked it up, that's exactly what it means, is living a lifestyle that brings you comfort, that it like expresses you, it's cozy. And then there are a lot of specific elements into it, like having blankets and a lot of ambient lighting, which is so me. Like I've got mini little lights everywhere. We do not turn on the big lights. We love natural light, and it's not like a specific color scheme. It's just a lifestyle that promotes a well-being of calm, peace, positivity, and relaxation. So
in the Little Book of Hygge by Mike Viking, I butchered his name, I don't know how you say it, but he talks about hygge as relaxed thoughtfulness, and I love that, because I think at the end of the day, that's what our consumption journey should really entail. It's thoughtfulness, it's intention, but it's also just without this pressure of needing to impress somebody or
Yeah.
doing something because it's trendy or because you want to have people like you, or, you know, whatever your motive or intention is for purchasing things or consuming things.
Yeah.
I think it's about asking yourself that question and kind of going from there and eliminating from there. You know, I said this earlier in one of our first episodes, but a messy home is a messy mind. In my, you know, in my home, there's only clutter because I have 10 spatulas and I really only need 5 or, you know, things like that.
You need one. You only need one.
See, functionality disagreement. There we go. But no,
See, I feel like we probably grew up with parents who probably tended to hold on to a lot of things. That's probably why we want to let go. Do you agree? For me, that's true.
yes, but there's a flip side of that for me. I think I hold on to really sentimental things now because I had a really hard, I would say, traumatic thing happen for me when my parents got divorced, because I wasn't able to really take all of the things that I wanted from my childhood home. And so there were a lot of home videos that I never got to take with me, or photos and things like that. So the few things that I do have from that house, I mean, I value so much more now because it is like an artifact of that too. But I do, yeah, my parents definitely didn't get rid of a lot of stuff. We had really cluttered countertops in our kitchen, and I cannot stand that now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like the one area for me where I'm like, I want it to look like nobody lives in my kitchen.
And nightstands.
Yes, I struggle with that one though, because that's where I put all of the books that I'm reading, and I'm only ever reading 10 at a time. So it's like, you know.
Well, I don't feel like books are clutter. I'm talking about like water cups and just hair clips and like all the little stuff that just accumulate, you know, when you're not actually needing it right there on your side.
Half-drunken water bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that people overconsume?
Unnecessary overconsumption.
Just in general.
If I have a perfume that I love, I don't feel like I need options with it, whereas maybe other people feel like they do. You have several perfumes. You might love the options. I love options with condiments and food. That I will overconsume. But what I think why people do it, I don't know. Like, why do you have 10 spatulas, or why do you have 5 perfumes? You tell me.
Perfumes, because I think that there's a difference between a winter scent and a summer scent.
There you go. Like, you might have the belief of what feels good for you, of how to express yourself or who you are to be, whereas I want to smell one way for the whole year. So I can't even say that it comes out of a place of greed or like impulsivity. It's just everyone's own preference. Why does someone need a whole fanny pack on their Stanley cup? I don't know. They're either doing it for the views, or maybe like they have a really hard time carrying a backpack on a walk.
Okay. This is
Or a belt
my
bag.
hot take on that whole thing. All I could think about when I saw that video was this person really struggles with control in their life. And that's why they need to have all of these small things, and they need to buy all of these things. That's all I could think about. And it's because I resonated with it. Because at one point in my life, I would have been a sucker to buy all that. But it was just the sense of control. Everything had a spot and it was organized, and it's why I buy a planner every single year and I never use it. It's the sense of control over my life, and then I end up not actually using it. Because let me ask you this. Do you think that person that bought that fanny pack is still using it every single time they go out?
Honestly, I'll say yes, because the amount of views and likes that they got from it probably gave like so much validation that, like, of course it's only going to increase the consumption of it. marketing,
Yeah,
right?
I guess. I mean,
I don't know.
or they're like, this adds 27 pounds to my water bottle.
yeah.
I would get so frustrated with that.
Yeah.
I already don't like to carry things. I just have my
Me too.
Lululemon
Belt
fanny
bag.
pack.
Yep.
And it fits
every day.
I cannot have a big purse because it will be a receipt graveyard. I will
Yeah.
carry around things that I don't need,
Yeah.
and so I have to have a small purse or a small bag, and that is just what works best for me.
I have a question for you. If
Yeah.
you could be an influencer for a product, or if you were, say, a very famous influencer who is well known for like something specifically, what would it be for? What would you want it to be for?
What do you think?
Quilting.
Really?
Yeah, I think it would be quilting or like poetry and
Yeah, I think it would be something creative.
yeah.
But again, I think that flows down to that's what is most authentic to who I am and what my interests are. What would you be? What influencer would you be?
I think what I would love to share, and that would come naturally for me and I would enjoy, is homeschooling. I really want to share my pottery journey, and then also like just all these little health things I do, like with my mushrooms. Like I find so much joy in like telling people about these crazy things that can help prevent the early onset of dementia. So like that's where I want to influence people in,
I can
and
see
like
that.
a psychological self-awareness.
Well,
That's what
welcome
we're
to Honey and
doing here.
Healing, where we are influencers for quilting and lion's mane and all things gut.
That's actually what we're doing, though. So I applaud us for being genuine in the expression of our own journeys and psychological well-being.
I think when you hear the term invisible string, I think the invisible string between you and I think there are many, but I think that one of them is just how we connect creatively and how we empower that part of ourselves. And I think when we're thinking of design trends or style, that's really ultimately what it boils down to, is how you're going to express yourself creatively and doing that within margin and what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're so synced. I find that too. Yeah.
Twinsies.
Whew. Well, I liked this topic. I think there needs to be more conversations about it without shame being attached to the listener and the speaker. I think it's an open conversation we need to have, especially if we're parents too, because I'm raising an 8-year-old girl who is very exposed to the digital world already. And, one day she's going to be influenced. So I do think we should, have these conversations.
I do too. I don't think, I think it's about, I can't speak for you, but I can certainly speak for myself when I say that I welcome other perspectives because I like being able to expand my thoughts, and I like to listen from a place of empathy and trying to understand rather than feeling attacked by an opposing view or something. But I think it's about educating yourself. So I'm excited to have conversations like this more because, but stay tuned for an episode on hygge coming to a speaker or stereo near you. I'm so excited about that topic. I don't know when we'll talk about it, but I cannot wait to dig into that. So
Agreed. I will say I am very, very looking forward to incorporating more of the Danish ways and lifestyle in my life. I want to be one of the happiest people on earth as they are there. So
right. Really quick, how did you pronounce hygge before you learned?
Hygge? Yeah. Hygge?
Hygge?
Yeah. Or hygge.
Hygge.
Very embarrassing. Add that to my list of pronouncing things incorrectly.
We'll do a recap at the end of season 1, just a highlight reel of all of the words, just in love and fun. This was so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening. And with that, we will see you next week.
Bye.